The moment the lawyer said the words, the room changed. Tom will inherit the Earthbag house and the land around it. For one quiet second, nobody moved. Then a few people laughed, like the lawyer had told a strange joke. The laughter spread, light at first, then louder, until it filled the small office. Tom stood near the door, holding his hat in both hands. He did not laugh. He did not smile. He simply looked at the lawyer with the same steady face he used when he checked the sky for rain. Tom was a farmer. He did not talk much, and he did not enjoy being watched. His days were built from simple things: early mornings, long rows of crops, the sound of water in the ditch, the weight of tools in his hands. He trusted work. He trusted the land. People were harder to understand. Around him sat folks from town, neighbors and distant relatives of the man who had passed away. Some had come expecting money. Others had come just to see what they could get. Most of them had not spoken to Tom in years, yet now they stared like he had stolen something. A man in a clean jacket leaned toward another and whispered, "An Earthbag house. That dirt thing out by the hills." A woman with sharp eyes shook her head and said, "Old Samuel must have lost his mind near the end." Old Samuel. That was the name the lawyer had read. A quiet man who lived far out, alone, building a house from bags filled with earth. In town, people called it the Mud Dome. They joked about it at the diner. They said it looked like a child's sandcastle that somebody forgot to kick down. Tom remembered Samuel differently. Years ago, when Tom's fence broke during a heavy storm, a few cows had wandered toward the road. Tom had been running in the rain, trying to push them back, when Samuel drove up in an old wagon. Without saying much, Samuel helped Tom guide the animals home and patch the fence with whatever boards they could find. He did not ask for payment. He did not want praise. He simply did the work and left. After that night, Tom sometimes saw Samuel in town. Samuel would nod once, maybe say a short hello, and then go back to his quiet life. Tom never thought of him as strange. He just thought Samuel liked peace. Now the lawyer continued reading. The Earthbag house. The land around it. All the tools inside. All the contents of the house. Everything passed to Tom. Someone laughed again and said, "He inherited a pile of dirt." Another voice added, "Good luck selling that." Tom did not react. He felt heat rise in his chest, but he kept his face calm. He had learned a long time ago that arguing with laughter was like trying to stop the wind with your hands. The lawyer asked, "Do you accept the inheritance?" Tom looked down at the papers, then up again. "Yes," he said quietly. The laughter did not stop. It followed him out into the bright afternoon like dust on boots. Outside, the town street felt too loud. People talked in little groups. Some pointed at Tom's truck. A few acted friendly, calling his name like they had always cared. Others watched him with thin smiles that did not reach their eyes. Tom climbed into his truck and drove away. As the buildings disappeared in the rear mirror, Tom's shoulders loosened. The road toward the hills was rough and narrow. It ran past dry fields, old fences, and small patches of trees. The air smelled like grass and distant rain. The sky was wide, pale, and open. Out here, there were no whispers. No judging eyes. Just land and time. After a long drive, Tom saw it. The Earthbag house sat on a low rise, surrounded by tall weeds and scattered rocks. From far away, it looked like part of the hill itself. Rounded walls. Soft curves. Earth-colored layers that blended into the landscape. Tom parked and stepped out. The wind was cool, and it carried a calm silence. He walked slowly toward the house, listening to his boots crunch on gravel. Up close, the building looked stronger than he expected. The walls were thick and smooth, not messy. The roof was shaped carefully, like someone had studied how storms move and decided to build something that would not fight the wind, but flow with it. Tom placed a hand against the wall. It was solid, cool, firm under his palm. He walked around the house. The windows were small, but the frames were clean and well made. The door was heavy wood, carved with simple shapes that looked like leaves and lines of water. This was not a rushed project. This was not a joke. Tom found the key the lawyer had given him. His fingers tightened around it for a second. Then he put it into the lock and turned. The door opened with a low sound, like an old tree bending. Inside, the air surprised him. It was warmer than outside, even though there was no fire burning. The room felt still in a good way, like a place where loud thoughts were not allowed. The walls had a soft color, and the light that came through the windows made everything look gentle. Tom stepped in and closed the door behind him. He expected to smell dust, but the place smelled clean, like wood and dry herbs. He expected clutter, but everything looked purposeful. There were shelves built into the curved walls. There was a sturdy table, handmade, with smooth corners. A few chairs sat neatly, not thrown around. A folded blanket rested on a bench. This did not feel like the home of a man who had nothing. It felt like the home of someone who chose a different kind of wealth. Tom moved farther in. In one corner, he saw jars lined up, each with neat labels. In another, he saw a simple bed, made carefully. On a shelf above it lay a book with a worn cover. Then Tom noticed something that made him stop. On the far wall, where the curve of the house rose gently like a wave, someone had carved words into the surface. The letters were clean and steady, not scratched in anger, not rushed. It was a message. Tom walked closer, his heart suddenly beating faster. He had no idea why, but he felt like he was standing near a door that opened into something bigger than a house. The first line read, "Tom, if you are reading this, it means you came." Tom stared at the words. The room seemed quieter than before. Even the wind outside felt far away. He had not expected his name. He swallowed and read the next line. His hands started to shake, just a little, as if his body understood the importance before his mind did. Because this was not just an inheritance. This was a plan. And old Samuel had written it for him. Tom leaned closer, ready to read more, when he noticed something else beneath the message. A small wooden panel set into the wall, almost hidden by the curve and the shadows. It did not look like part of the design. It looked like a secret. Tom reached toward it, his fingers hovering in the air. Whatever was behind that panel was the real reason everyone would stop laughing. And Tom was about to find out. Tom stood in front of the wooden panel for a long moment. He did not touch it right away. The house felt quiet, like it was waiting for him to choose carefully. The message on the wall stayed in his mind. Old Samuel had planned this. That thought alone made Tom uneasy and curious at the same time. He finally placed his fingers on the edge of the panel. It opened easily. Behind it was not gold or money. It was something better organized and far more surprising. There were folded papers, tied neatly with string. A small leather notebook rested on top. Beside it sat a metal box, plain and strong, the kind farmers used to store tools that mattered. Tom took a slow breath and pulled everything out. He sat at the table and untied the string. The papers were letters. Each one dated. Each one written in steady handwriting. Tom picked the first letter and began to read. Samuel wrote about the land. About soil health, water flow, and weather patterns. He wrote about how the hills caught rain and how the earthbag walls kept the house warm in winter and cool in summer. These were not random thoughts. They were lessons. Observations made over many years. Tom felt his respect grow with every page. Samuel had not built this place as a shelter only. He had built it as a system. A way to live without wasting, without fighting nature. A way to stay steady when times became hard. Tom opened the notebook next. Inside were drawings. Simple sketches of gardens, water paths, storage areas under the floor, and markings that showed where the ground stayed cool all year. Samuel had planned food storage without machines. He had planned harvest cycles. He had planned for the future. Tom leaned back in his chair, his chest tight. The town thought Samuel was poor. They were wrong. Samuel had been rich in knowledge. Tom opened the metal box last. Inside were deeds, maps, and legal papers. Samuel had quietly bought small strips of land over many years. Not flashy land. Not land people wanted. But land that connected water sources and natural paths. Together, the pieces formed something clear. Samuel had built more than a house. He had built security. Tom rubbed his face with both hands and let out a slow breath. He felt like someone who had been handed a heavy responsibility without warning. Samuel had trusted him, chosen him, and Tom was not sure why. As the sun moved across the sky, Tom explored the rest of the house. Under a rug, he found a wooden hatch. Beneath it was a cool storage space built into the earth. Shelves held preserved food, dried grains, and sealed jars. Everything labeled. Everything rotated. Nothing was wasted. Outside, Tom walked the land with new eyes. He followed faint paths Samuel had cleared. He noticed stone markers placed with care. He saw how water flowed during rain and how small channels guided it gently away from the house and into planted areas. This land was alive. By evening, Tom sat on the porch, watching the sky turn orange and soft blue. His mind felt full, heavy, calm. Samuel had left him a gift, but also a question. What would Tom do with it? The next morning, Tom returned to town for supplies. Word spread fast. People noticed the change in his posture. He stood straighter, quieter in a different way. At the hardware store, two men whispered nearby. He went back out there again, one said. Must be fixing the mess. Tom did not answer. He paid for tools and seeds and left. Over the next weeks, Tom worked harder than ever, but not in the way people expected. He did not tear anything down. He repaired. He improved. He followed Samuel's notes closely. When something worked, he wrote it down. When something failed, he adjusted. The land responded. Plants grew strong. Water stayed where it was needed. The house stayed steady through wind and heat. One afternoon, a neighbor named Luke drove out to see what Tom was doing. Luke had laughed at the will reading. He admitted that freely. I thought you lost your luck, Luke said, scratching his head as he looked around. This place looks better than most houses in town. Tom nodded. It was built that way. Luke walked the land with quiet respect. People are talking, he said. They are wondering how that dirt house is still standing. Tom smiled slightly. It was never just dirt. More visitors came. Some curious. Some doubtful. Tom did not explain much. He let them see. Slowly, laughter turned into silence. One evening, as Tom sorted through the letters again, he found one he had missed. It was thinner. Written later than the others. He opened it. Samuel wrote about the future. About times when systems break and people panic. About how strong communities matter more than strong buildings. He wrote that the house was only the start. At the bottom of the letter was one line that stayed with Tom long after he folded the paper. This place will change lives if someone brave enough opens it to others. Tom stared at the wall, at the quiet strength of the curved space around him. He thought about the town, the laughter, the hunger for easy answers. He thought about the land. And for the first time, Tom understood what Samuel truly wanted. The inheritance was not meant to hide. It was meant to grow. And what Tom chose next would decide whether this house became a secret or a beginning. Tom did not rush into any big decision. He had learned from the land that change works best when it moves at a steady pace. Each morning, he woke before the sun and walked the path Samuel had marked long ago. He checked the soil with his hands. He watched how light touched the walls of the Earthbag house. He listened more than he spoke. Slowly, the place taught him how it wanted to live. Tom added small changes that followed Samuel's plans. He planted new rows of vegetables where water naturally gathered. He repaired stone lines that guided rain toward the roots instead of letting it run away. He cleaned and organized the storage spaces, keeping careful notes like Samuel had done. The work felt different from regular farming. It was quieter, smarter. Every step had a reason. People in town began to notice. At first, it was just talk. Someone said Tom's crops looked healthier than ever. Another said his fields stayed green even when others turned dry. The laughter that once followed his name grew thinner. One afternoon, a woman named Clara drove out to the house. She ran a small food stand in town and bought produce from local farmers. She had laughed during the will reading, but now her face held curiosity instead of humor. "I heard you're growing things early this season," she said. Tom nodded and handed her a basket. She looked at the vegetables closely, turning them in her hands. "These are strong," she said quietly. "How are you doing this without extra machines?" Tom shrugged. "The land already knows what to do." Clara walked around the house, touching the walls, stepping carefully as if she had entered a place that deserved respect. When she left, she paid Tom more than usual without saying why. After that, others came. A young couple asked how the house stayed cool. An older man wanted to know why Tom's water never ran short. Tom answered only when asked. He never bragged. He never laughed back. The Earthbag house stood calm, like it was watching people change their minds one by one. Then the storm came. Dark clouds rolled in without warning. Wind bent trees low. Rain fell heavy and fast. In town, water rushed through streets. Some roofs leaked. A few fields flooded. Out by the hills, Tom watched the rain from inside the house. The walls stayed dry. The roof guided water smoothly down into the channels Samuel had designed. Storage spaces remained safe. The house held firm, like it had been waiting for this test. When the storm passed, Tom walked outside. The land had absorbed the water gently. No damage. No loss. In town, people talked about it. They said the dirt house did not shake. They said Tom's crops survived. They said maybe old Samuel had known something. A few days later, Luke returned, this time with others. They stood near the house, unsure, like guests at a place they once mocked. "We had some trouble after the storm," Luke said. "Water issues. Crops ruined. We were wondering if you could explain how you set things up." Tom looked at their faces. He saw pride, worry, and something close to hope. He thought about Samuel's letter. Strong communities matter more than strong buildings. He nodded. Tom walked them through the land slowly. He showed them how water was guided, how soil stayed rich, how simple design solved problems people tried to fix with expensive tools. They listened. Not one of them laughed. Word spread fast after that. People stopped calling it the dirt house. They started calling it the hill home. Some called it the calm house. Others simply called it Samuel's place, even though Samuel was gone. One evening, Tom found another message carved into a small wooden beam near the back of the house. He had missed it before. The words were simple. Share what you can. Keep what you need. Tom smiled for the first time in days. He decided to open the land once a week. Not for show. Not for money. Just for learning. People came with questions. Tom showed them what he knew. He asked them what they knew. The place slowly turned into a meeting ground. Children walked the paths and learned where food came from. Older folks shared stories about weather and seasons. Clara brought food. Luke helped repair fences. The house changed again, not in structure, but in purpose. Still, not everyone was pleased. Some people in town felt uncomfortable. They had laughed too loudly. They had judged too quickly. Seeing Tom respected now made them uneasy. A few started rumors. They said the house was unsafe. They said Tom was hiding something. One afternoon, a man named Henry came out alone. He had been one of the loudest voices during the laughter. He stood near the door, arms crossed. People say this place isn't right, Henry said. That it's built on strange ideas. Tom met his eyes. It's built on the land. Henry stepped inside. He felt the calm air. He touched the wall. He noticed the warmth. His voice softened. It doesn't feel wrong. No, Tom said. It feels honest. Henry stayed longer than planned. When he left, he did not spread rumors again. That night, Tom sat alone, reading Samuel's letters once more. He realized something important. The house had not changed people. It had revealed them. Some came with pride and learned humility. Some came with fear and found calm. Some came with doubt and left with respect. And some still stayed away. Tom knew bigger tests would come. More storms. More questions. More choices. But the laughter was gone now. In its place stood something stronger. Curiosity. And curiosity, Tom knew, was the first step toward real change. The Earthbag house had never felt crowded before. That changed on a clear morning when Tom woke to the sound of voices drifting up the hill. He stepped outside and saw people walking along the paths, some in pairs, some alone, some carrying baskets or tools. They moved slowly, like visitors entering a place they were still learning to respect. Tom counted more than 20. He did not call them. He did not invite them for that day. They came on their own. At first, Tom felt a tight pull in his chest. He valued quiet. He valued space. But as he watched them spread out, touching the stone lines, studying the water channels, he remembered Samuel's words. Strong communities matter more than strong buildings. Tom took a breath and walked down to meet them. Clara was there, helping an older woman step over a small ditch. Luke carried boards on his shoulder, already thinking about repairs. A few children ran ahead, laughing softly, careful not to trample plants. Then Tom noticed something important. No one was laughing at the house. A man stepped forward. His name was Owen, a shop owner from town. He cleared his throat. "We heard you were opening the place more often," Owen said. "People wanted to learn. Not to take. Just to understand." Tom studied their faces. He saw tired eyes, hopeful eyes, cautious eyes. These were not people looking for a joke. These were people looking for answers. "All right," Tom said. "But we do things slow here." They agreed quickly. Tom began by walking them through the land. He explained how Samuel had shaped the slopes so water would never rush. He showed them how certain plants protected others from heat and wind. He explained why the house walls stayed cool during the day and warm at night. The group listened closely. Some took notes. Some asked careful questions. Others simply watched, learning by sight and feel. Inside the house, the calm wrapped around them like a quiet promise. People lowered their voices without being told. Children stopped running and sat on the floor, tracing shapes in the packed earth walls. One woman touched the wall and whispered, "It feels alive." Tom nodded. It was built with respect. By midday, people were working together. Luke fixed a loose fence post. Clara organized food on a long table outside. Owen helped carry water jars. The place felt less like a project and more like a shared effort. But not everyone was happy. In town, a few voices grew sharp. Some business owners worried that Tom's way would make their products less needed. Others felt embarrassed that they had laughed and did not want to admit they were wrong. That afternoon, a small group arrived with stiff faces. Henry walked with them, quieter than before. They stood apart, watching. One man spoke first. "This place isn't approved for gatherings," he said. "People could get hurt." Tom stayed calm. "We are not selling anything. We are learning." The man frowned. "Learning without rules can cause trouble." Tom looked around. He saw children helping elders. He saw neighbors sharing food. He saw careful steps and thoughtful hands. "What trouble do you see?" Tom asked. The man had no clear answer. Henry stepped forward. I laughed once, he said slowly. I was wrong. This place helped my land after the storm. That is the truth. The group fell silent. After a long moment, the stiff-faced men left. The rest stayed. As evening came, people gathered in a wide circle outside the house. The sun dropped low, painting the walls in warm colors. Someone started a quiet song. Others joined, not loud, not planned. Tom sat near the door, watching. He realized something important. This was no longer just his inheritance. It was becoming a center. Days turned into weeks. The visits became regular. People brought ideas. Some failed. Some worked. Everyone learned. The land grew healthier. The soil deepened. The harvest improved. The Earthbag house became known for its steadiness. During hot days, people rested there. During heavy rains, they checked how water moved. During hard weeks, they talked. Tom found another letter from Samuel one night, hidden inside a book cover. It was short. You will know the moment when the house is no longer yours alone. Tom smiled. He had known for a while. Still, change always invites challenge. One morning, Tom received notice from the town council. They wanted to inspect the property. There were concerns. Rules. Papers. Tom did not panic. He prepared. When the council members arrived, they walked the land with careful steps. Tom explained everything clearly. He showed them how the house was safe, how the land was protected, how nothing harmful was happening. They asked many questions. Tom answered honestly. At the end of the day, the oldest council member nodded. This place follows the land better than most buildings in town. The others agreed quietly. Permission was granted. When the council truck drove away, a cheer rose from the people nearby. Not loud. Just enough to carry relief. That night, Tom stood alone inside the house. The walls glowed softly. He felt tired but steady. He understood now why Samuel had chosen him. Tom did not chase attention. He did not chase power. He listened. The laughter that once followed his name felt like a distant memory. In its place stood trust, shared effort, and a quiet strength that could not be shaken by storms or doubts. Tom looked at the door, then at the wide land beyond it. One final lesson waited ahead, and it would test not the house, but the people who stood around it. The test came quietly. There was no storm warning, no sudden disaster, no loud sign that something important was about to happen. It arrived in the form of a dry season that stretched longer than anyone expected. Week after week, the sky stayed clear. Streams shrank. Wells dropped. Fields in town turned pale and weak. People grew worried, then tired, then unsure. Tom watched the land closely. The Earthbag house remained steady. The soil around it held moisture longer than other places. The water path Samuel had designed continued to guide what little rain came. The storage rooms stayed cool and protected. People noticed. At first, they came asking questions. Then they came asking for help. Tom did not turn anyone away. But he also did not promise miracles. He showed them what worked. He asked them to help each other. He reminded them that the land had limits and needed respect. The hill became a place of learning again, but this time with urgency. Families shared water carefully. Crops were planted where they had the best chance. Tools were shared. Food was stored and divided with care. The Earthbag house became something new. It became a steady point. One evening, Clara sat with Tom near the door, watching the sun drop behind the hills. "People don't laugh anymore," she said. Tom nodded. "They listen now." In town, attitudes changed. The same people who once mocked the house now defended it. When someone spoke badly, others corrected them. When rumors tried to grow, truth stopped them. The laughter never returned. As the dry season continued, one difficult decision had to be made. A nearby family's well failed completely. They had young children and nowhere to go. Without calling a meeting, people walked up the hill. They stood in a quiet group, waiting for Tom. Tom listened. Then he opened the door. The family stayed in the Earthbag house while their land recovered. Others brought food. Some helped dig a new water path. No one asked for payment. The house did not belong to one man anymore. It belonged to a purpose. Weeks later, the rain returned. Not heavy. Not dramatic. Just steady enough to heal the land. The soil drank it in. Streams slowly filled. Crops lifted their heads again. People gathered on the hill to watch the first green signs appear. Someone asked Tom, "What will you call this place now?" Tom thought for a moment. "It's still a house," he said. "But it's also a promise." They nodded. On a quiet morning, Tom found the last message Samuel had left. It was carved lightly near the floor, easy to miss. "A good house stands. A better house teaches." Tom rested his hand on the wall and closed his eyes. He understood everything now. Samuel had not been building in secret. He had been building in patience. He had waited for the right hands, the right time, the right heart. The Earthbag house had changed everything, not because it was strong, but because it showed people how to be strong together. Years later, travelers came to learn. They did not come to stare. They came to listen. They took ideas back to their own lands. Small changes spread outward, quiet and steady. Tom grew older, but he never left the hill. He worked less with his hands and more with his voice, guiding others the way Samuel once guided him. When children asked why the house was built from earth instead of stone, Tom answered simply, "Because earth remembers." On the day Tom passed the responsibility to others, he stood by the door one last time. He looked at the land, the people, the house that once caused laughter and now caused respect. Nothing had been wasted. Nothing had been proven through force. Everything had been changed through care. The house still stood on the hill, calm and patient, just as it always had. And anyone who walked through its door understood the truth that once shocked an entire town. The strongest things are not always loud. Sometimes they are built quietly, one careful choice at a time.